Somalia was overwhelming. I mean, my first trip there, I think I was only on the ground 24 hours and shot two stories. And the first story I shot, I wandered into I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I really had no experience. So I land in this place by Doha. I get off this relief flight. The guys on the flight unload the packets of sorghum and wheat and whatever else they're dropping off, and the C-130 takes off, and I'm alone on this runway with my backpack and a camera, and in this town by Doha, and there's no airport or anything, and some guys come and take the sorghum to whatever the relief groups, and I kind of talked to I think one guy from CARE and one guy from another relief group, and kind of I was too shy to actually ask them ask them if I could come and stay with them or anything like that. I didn't
You
want
didn't know where to stay.
I had nowhere to stay. No, I had no plans. And then those guys left, and I'm really shy, and I can't ask anybody for anything like a favor or anything like that. So I didn't want to ask these guys for anything. So I then ended up just by myself on this runway, thinking I'm screwed. And I saw this like pile of dust and a vehicle approaching, and it was these young gunmen in a pickup truck, and there was like five of them, Somali guys, and I was like, now I'm really screwed. And they came up to me, and I started talking to them, and they offered their services as my gunmen and to drive me around, and I hired them. And because at the time you needed to have your own you needed gunmen because there was just gunmen, wandering around, and it was very dangerous. I was actually more scared of these guys than anybody else because I thought, why wouldn't they just kill me? I mean, we were going to burial grounds with empty pits, and I had more money in my backpack than I was going to be giving them on a daily basis. And so I kept coming up with stories like my other journalist friends who were coming in the following days, and they would also need protection, and I'd love to hook them up with my journalist friends. None of which I didn't have any journalist friends. But so I got in their pickup truck, and they were like, "All right, where do you want to go?" And I was like, "I really don't know. Is there a hospital here?" And they were like, "Yeah." So we went to the hospital, and I remember there was all these gunmen outside the hospital, and I didn't know. Can you just wander into a hospital? How do you do this? So I said to the gunman, like, I don't, is it right to go in? And he looked at me and he was like, of course you can go in. You're American. You can do anything. And I ended up going into the operating room while they were operating on somebody. And I thought, this is like, can I just wander into an operating room? And the doctors and nurses were so overwhelmed with everything, and were so desperate to get word out about what was happening in Somalia that they were fine with me being there, and they were amputating somebody's leg. And I just turned my camera on. I ended up interviewing them while they were, operating on this person, and shot a story inside this hospital. And that was the first story I did. And then I just wandered around for the rest of the day and the following day, shooting stuff. And I came upon a family whose child had just died while I was there, and they were washing his body, and it was their last child to die, and he was 5 years old, and they wrapped him in a shroud, and they buried him in a pit, and, I shot that, and it was so awkward, and I didn't know if I should shoot it. I didn't know, I was just sitting there watching them, wash their son's body, and his legs were as thin as the twigs of the hut that they had sort of been camping out in, and as they washed his body through this cloth, you could see his hollowed out skull, and I felt incredibly awkward being there and inappropriate being there, and I sort of motioned to the father if it was okay for me to turn my camera on, and he sort of motioned yes, and I didn't talk to them, I didn't interview them because I just thought it was, I asked them enough questions just to find out sort of the details, but I didn't want to, to intrude in this horrific moment, and it was that moment that I think had a big impact on the Channel 1 audience.